One sec. There we go. Okay, so can you see me? Can you hear me? We're good with the audio. It looks like it's fine, but it also looks like it's skipping a bit, which fair. Oh. Okay. It looks like the feed is live. If it ever lets me switch between screens. Because I'm on the wrong button, that's why it's not working. Alright. Okay, one sec. Let me see if I can get this to work. Is that any better? Also, I figured it was about time to bust out the festive Pika. So that's where we are right now, especially with some of the spoopy elements in the book and stuff. So, right. Yeah. Let's see. Okay, I was trying to load the feed in another window, and that's taken care of. So we'll give it a minute and see if it levels out a little bit. So right now it's like 67% drop frames, which admittedly not a good rate. Just as a thing. But yeah, the Hello Chew. Alright. Let's see. Okay, well. Well, we're figuring that out. How's everybody doing? How are y'all doing right now? Because around these parts, it's doing alright. Wait, okay, one sec. We're doing alright. It's been really windy the last few days, though, which is not the best, admittedly. Encountered a violent busker today. Ooh, nice. Also spotted 3 deer in the shade. Very cool. Yeah, there was a violent busker outside one of the shops that I went to last week, and that was really cool. Yeah. Deer are fabulous. Oh, yes. Because sometimes, photos don't really capture the essence of whatever. These are the 2 little ornament guys that I made a couple days ago. So we've got the 2D Bob Fooley friend here, who it's just a green piece of green felt on black, which is why there's a little bit of a edge around him, or this little guy that's got some squishy in him. But yeah, those are the 2 in there. And I realize we're 18 days into October already. So I'm probably not going to get these even like fully drawn out by the end of October. But I've got some preliminary sketches for the Stream Ink slash creative corner, whatever the new tag is. What is it? Need to. Creative's Nook, that's what it is. So we'll see on that one. Oh yeah, wind plus ragweed. Yeah, that's not a good combo. But like, if you look at them, we've got a couple of interesting things up in here that the intent that I don't know. It's if you go on Instagram, Creatives Nook is the new account that it's attached to. So I'm not entirely sure why there was a switch though. I admittedly haven't been all that involved in the art side of Twitch actively for a bit, so I don't know. But the current where is it? The current plan is to like make more of these little dudes, but with whatever the components are on here. And this is watercolor paper, so to do watercolory bits and stuff as well. So we'll see what happens. But that's what we've got so far. And I think the tags are in there. So yeah, definitely the 2D. All right. I'm used to doing the 3D because we'll be we'll be cute and festive. Exactly. Like, and I was trying to figure out how to get it to work, but like the main body is 2 layers and the wings and the arms are just the 1 layer, and it works. We have a tree displaying all of them. That would be one way to go. And getting a smallish tree wouldn't be too much of a thing because I've seen them for like a couple of dollars places. So yeah, no, that's definitely a possible. Yeah, totally. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, because when I'm doing any kind of like fabric stuff, I'm so used to... Why do you have lint on your butt, dude? Like, why? Like, and your face. What is happening? But no, like, I'm so used to having, like, a 3D sort of thing that, like, if you're planning out a design, you can just kind of, like, stick something on there and, like, sculpt it around. But if it's 2D, then it's kind of like, this is a flat surface. You're essentially drawing with felt or whatever it is that you're doing. So it's like, it works equally. It's just a matter of like switching how you're thinking about it. So like, for one of them, it's owl. So to have owl type wings, if I was adding something to this guy, it would either be like a cloak or it would be like feathers coming off the arms and stuff down here. If it's two-dimensional, then it would either be like a flat piece here or to have like the arms up with like a piece of fabric connecting the arm to the rest of the body, kind of a thing. So it's like, how to think about this? What kind of pattern do I need? Up to you, but figured 2D would be less work. Yeah, no, totally. It depends on how to go about it. And I think I figured out a method. So there's that, yeah. That, and admittedly, the two-dimensional one, you can, like, it behaves like it would if it was drawn, which is kind of the point, so there you go. Okay. Right. It looks like the drop rate is slowly decreasing, but it's still at almost 50%. So, is it enough of an issue that it's impacting the viewing discussion stuff? Because what we could do is restart a stream if it's that much of a thing. Because I'm seeing the like, I don't know, stream health notification thing that's cycling between red, yellow, and green right now. I mean, yeah, I've got cats and stuff, but like, hair, I get it. But also, so yes, befriend. Okay. Let me know if the stream goes like fully wonky sideways and we'll figure it out. But until then, Hollow Chew and I will do a discuss. Delay bugs more than dropping. Okay. So. Got it. as you can see from the where is it? This over here. The current book. Have you been sorted yet? Okay. It's a matter of reacting to the prompts on the Novice Path channel, right? So I remember you told me how to do it and I completely blanked. And whenever I go to do it, I get distracted with something. So just to make sure that I do it properly and whatever. That's what I've got up right now. That's where I need to be to do the sorting stuff, right? Where it says your journey begins. Okay. Got it. That's what I thought. Okay, so yeah. When we end stream, I'll go over there and read everything and do that. Alright. So as you can see from the title and the cover and everything over yonder here, we're starting a new book. It's probably just gonna be like 3 weeks. Because I mean, so far we're like a third of the way in, so probably. This one, The Girl and the Witch's Garden. Which, okay, one sec. Ah. There we go. I'm the one that suggested it, and I can't even get the title right. Alright, there we go. Right. So, we've got The Girl and the Witch's Garden by Erin Bowman. It's a children's fantasy. That the description on the back is kind of, what was it? One of the descriptions is that it's kind of got a mix of Miss Peregrine's Home for Peculiar Children and Circus Mirandus, which I'm not familiar with the first. No, I'm not familiar with the second, and just vaguely familiar with the first on that. But it does very much have the like element of magical children in an orphanage situation. And also a bit of the chosen one dynamic sort of thing. Um, when we're introduced to Piper, our main character, Piper, who, pictured hair, which, again, like, the Studio Ghibli of it all is amazing. Her dad is going through chemo. Her mom is very much absent, and all of the adults, barring very select ones, like all of the magical adult people in the storyline seem to be at best not so great, and at worst just like abjectly real bad. Yeah, the adult magicians are clearly evil and up to no good. Exactly. Like, like, on the one hand, right? Like, you've got a situation where there's magical adults and magical kids, and there's other magical adults who are going out looking to kidnap magical kids. So, like, there could be an argument made that because Piper's mom knew that she had an ability or an affinity, as it's termed in here, that in order to protect our kid, she left somewhere. She left the house to go do research on something, because that's a thing that has been in stories before. The parent knows that their kid shares whatever their ability is, so therefore to like throw off suspicion or to protect their kid or whatever, abandons the family, because then like they would be under suspicion, not the rest of the bunch. But like, also um yeah, at that point, most of the time for those plot lines, it's that there's like one person left in the whole family because everyone else has been murdered, and like, oh right, we have a kid now, that's great. Well, I have to leave. But in this, like, there's an ancestral estate that is, from the sounds of it, the seat of like immense power and stuff. So like they could have just holed up in there if that was the situation. So like likely not the thing. If the idea is to protect the elixir, you need to remove it from the obviously excellent protection, because why? Yeah, it's yeah. Yeah, pretty much. Which, not gonna lie, I was seeing some Sorcerer's Stone, or Philosopher's, yeah. I was seeing some Philosopher's Stone kind of elements with that one there. Partly because it's fresh in my brain from doing a reread, but like also. But we've got a bunch of kids who Yeah. And why would Mrs. Peavy want to trap Teddy in the garden? Does not seem helpful to her stated objective. Yeah. Like, okay. On the one hand, just going with Piper's experience with the people in her life, right? Her mom has always been absent or pretty remote since she got to the estate. She hasn't wanted anything to do with her kid, and from the sounds of it from everyone else, she's been really standoffish and cruel for the last short period of time, which seems to correspond with Teddy getting trapped in the garden. And Mrs. Mallory has always been, at least when Piper sees her grandmother, has been fairly warm and welcoming and excited to interact with her. So, and Mallory's been missing since about the same time that Teddy disappeared. Well, 2 days after Teddy disappeared, from the sounds of it. So, it sounds like there's, I don't know, 2 different, truths in the story at this point. So we've got what Teddy has said, where he's stuck in the maze, or stuck in the garden, really. And was told to wait there because the rest of the kids would come in with the key and get him out. And we've got Mrs. Peavy, who said that he just disappeared and no one's seen him. And then we've got the theories from the kids, who run the gamut of he's off on an errand to he got murdered, which is a bit troubling, just as a thing. Especially if it's I understand they're orphans, and this is one of very few places that you can be visibly magical and not worry about your safety. So therefore it's a valuable location, a valuable situation and stuff. But half of the group is convinced that their current foster parents for lack of a better term, had one of their friends killed, are more or less terrified all the time because of how things have been going. And my nose. And the prize for finding the elixir is that they get adopted. Which, getting adopted, like, I can totally see that being a draw. But with everything else situated as it is, I don't know. And if Teddy's only been gone for a week, why would the stuff be cleared out of his room and Piper be invited to stay there in such a short period of time? I don't know. Exactly. Why would we want to be adopted into a situation unless material comfort is overriding? Yeah. Yeah. So, like, oh. I do find it interesting though that it's one of those situations that, like, each character has a particular role that they have to play in whatever the grand production is. And we've got Piper, who, up until like 2 years ago, when her dad got diagnosed with cancer, was an avid gymnast. And she's able to vault through to vault through the magical mystery door that no one else even knows is there. In addition to kind of blending into the shadows, which we haven't seen that be acknowledged as her affinity, but being that she kind of fades in and out of awareness from everyone else around her, it's pretty likely that that's what it is. And being that the cat is being real creepy, that's probably gonna be a thing at some point. Which Okay. Being that Piper's mom, Mrs. Peavy, has so far only been seen to be even tangentially affectionate with the cat. And the cat seems to be, like, I don't know. Keeping tabs on the kids, I guess. Um, it's likely that, like, in a magical context, the cat is probably a familiar, because that's how the familiar dynamic is usually portrayed. Um, Depending on how the magical world building is for a particular story, which we haven't seen that aspect of it yet, but it would stand to reason. We have contemplated that Mrs. Peavy is actually the cat, actually in the cat. Yeah, yeah, no, totally. Like, if her ability has that as a component, I can totally see that. And one of the things that has been not speculated really, but one of, like, the bits of lore about witches and familiars and whatnot is that, like, in theory, if you have a strong enough connection, then you can see through the animal's eyes. Whether or not there's any merit to that depends entirely on perception of the situation and the particular tradition that's being discussed, but there you go. Or the cat is a minion of evil. The I can't remember what the acronym stands for. The High Order of Magi. There we go. Minion of evil, High Order of Magi, and is controlling her. Exactly. Yeah. Either the cat is a pawn, or the cat is making Mrs. Peavy into a pawn at this point. At which point, where's Mallory? He's like, where is Mrs. Mallory at that point? So, yeah. High Order of Magicians. Yes, yes indeed. um, because yeah, every time we hear Magi, we think Christmas. Fair, fair. It's a valid point. um, yeah. So I don't know. It and just as an observational thing, right? Okay. From the cover, if we look at it real close, right? We've got the cover here, and the cat is where are you? The cat, Wolfie, is down here being like skulky and weird. So at some point, we're probably gonna see the cat in the garden. But also, we've got Piper and our locket, and the locket seems to be glowing, and it has an infinity symbol on it that, or, well, it might not have an infinity symbol on it, but it seems to react to the infinity fountain, or thoughts of the infinity fountain, because there's, at one point, she's looking through you keep wanting to call him. Okay, there we go. She's looking through Julius's spyglass at the fountain, and the locket gets warm. So there's that. And we know that she wants to get the elixir for her dad because her dad has cancer. But with how magical immortality elixirs work, generally, there's going to be some issues with that. Yeah. The butterfly is a great symbol for the garden because of transformation. Yeah, exactly. I didn't catch that with the login. Yeah, okay. Let me see if I can find the passage. I think it was in 8? But what if it doesn't heal him and he just lives on in end-stage cancer? Exactly. Like, I've seen somewhere it's you continue to age, but you don't die. So, like, at one point, you're just completely unable to move and fully decrepit, but you're like 500 years old, just sitting there. There's ones that it freezes you at whatever age and bodily condition you were in. There's some that you start to de-age at whatever point you took it. Yeah. There's ones that, like, you achieve immortality, but you have to steal life force from something else for the rest of time. You know. And yeah. So there's always a catch. There's always like a price to pay. And on top of which, the thing is in the garden under guard of the garden. Has been for the last couple hundred years, and the High Order has demanded that it be retrieved now so that they can go hide it somewhere, because people are trying to get to it to use it for nefarious purposes. Because that doesn't sound suspicious at all. No, not at all. No. Right. Okay. Where is it? Oh, yeah, there it is. Yeah. Yeah. High order of magicians propaganda. Exactly. Okay, Piper scanned the head of the butterfly where the Persian had been pacing the other day. The pedestal at the center of the pool held a metal sculpture shaped like an infinity symbol. Piper's heart kicked in her chest. Her locket seemed to warm against her skin. So, yeah. But wordplay! Exactly. Exactly. And actually, I need to. Mark. Ah! It is also interesting that no one ever calls the cat by name, if you notice. Because the only time that we see any mention of the cat having an actual name is when Piper looks at the collar. Because past that, it's just the Persian. So, I don't know. And it's delivered in the same kind of like almost ominous watchfulness that you would associate with like the teacher's over there, the assassin has come, that sort of thing. Not like, mom's here. As long as that's a good association thing. There we go. Yeah. There's some kind of like implied hidden agenda is what I'm trying to go with. Anyway. Yeah. Also, there's where is it? Also, we comprehend ease. Okay, so the infinity symbol spins, but when she's looking at it, like it's a wonky circle. So that if you look at it from a particular angle, it's infinity. And if you look at it from another angle, it's fully distorted into something completely different. So, that adds another layer to the question of whether or not it's a healing immortality, or if it's like a negative immortality, or like what kind of immortality it is. Because if you're getting. Alright. I will preface this by saying that, like, the vast majority of, my high school to early college level there was very much like existential contemplation sort of a situation. But depending on how you approach it, immortality has a lot of different interpretations. If it's you physically not dying, then there's I can't remember what the title is, but you're a Kevin groupie, we know. I mean, yeah. It's a thing. But depending on how you approach the discussion, the question of immortality, creating something that lives, that outlives you, having stories that outlive you. At that point, it's something that you have done, something that you're part of, that lasts longer than your physical being does. If it's like that you physically want to not die, that's when you run into like the interestingly wonky stories and bits of like don't know that I would call them zombies in that situation, like undead, but not really, but kind of. But like whenever I think about that sort of situation where it's like immortality without the healing factor, because that's the big thing, right? That's kind of what it comes down to. If you are immortal in such that you have like rapid healing, or you can heal yourself, that's one thing. Uh, that that's usually the best outcome with something like that. The ones where it's like immortality without the healing factor, though, that's when it gets like more suspicious, you know. Because the two coming to mind the most right now are the Voldemort Horcrux situation, and I can't remember what the title is, but it's a story where like I don't know, there's a bunch of people, like a bunch of rich people that go to a party and they drink some kind of like elixir of something, and one of them goes home and gets pushed off the stairs, and one of them gets shot, but like they're both dead. They both don't have a pulse, but like they're both still conscious and talking and stuff, but like decomposing. So yeah, it's one of those that in that particular reality, or in that storyline, they were fine until they were killed, and then they became like undead and couldn't like come back from that. They just like kept decomposing, and one of the last frames in the story, I don't know, they both fell downstairs years after the initial situation, and they were like limbs scattered everywhere and had to be reconfigured and stuff, but they were still there ranting at each other. So it, yeah. Ah, okay. Depends on if it means you literally cannot be killed. Like, technically, vampires are immortal because they can be killed. Or, vampires are mortal because they can be killed. Yeah, exactly. Like, if you have a really long lifespan and a really good healing factor, like, alright, I can work with that. That's cool. If you cannot be killed, how does that manifest? You know? So, yeah. Yeah. Wait. Okay. Um. Yeah. And, like, alright, just as a thing, right? Can we just appreciate how Teddy, was aware enough of his surroundings and everything, and, um, like, conscious of the nature that he was in the middle of enough that when a bee landed on the surface of the infinity pool, um, and was smart enough to, piece together things, that he didn't jump into it right then. Because, like, that would have been bad. Like, seriously. Seriously. uh, I don't know. That, and from the sounds of it, up to this point, the kids have worked together, but they haven't been working together. Like, Julius shared what he saw through the spyglass with all of them, but from the sounds of it, they've each been attempting to get into the garden by themselves. And so far, Piper's the only one who successfully did that, especially on our first round. Because, yeah. Also, the diversity seems a bit forced, side observation. Yeah. Yeah, no. I was noticing that too. Also, just putting that out there, right? Teddy, what was it? Teddy. Yeah, the order of. Okay. In the audio, does it call it the Order of Magicians or the Order of Magi? Because in this one, it's the High Order of Magi. So I don't know. Okay. But yeah, no, I I totally get what you mean with the Magi and the Christmas thing. Yeah, so a logistical thing here, right? The garden has been as it is since the Civil War. There's no dates on anything, but this was published last year. It was published in 2000. Wi-Fi on phones is a thing, so like it's very much a modern thing. So we can kind of assume that it's taking place now, or like maybe a few years ago, but now, basically. So it's been a good couple hundred years since the garden was hidden, presumably. Piper's 12. Teddy and what's his name? And Kenji are like what, 10? 9 or 10? And he still visibly looks a few years younger than she does. So like I might be reading it wrong for how his time bending affinity works and all that. Because if it's something that you can bend it and then just kind of slip in, alright, fine, whatever. But what was it? I was going to tell the others, but Mrs. Peavy told me to hide in the garden immediately. Otherwise, Mrs. Mallory would kill me and absorb my affinity so she could get in the garden herself. Which, there's a whole lot in there. I don't know. So I bent time again and slipped into the garden just before the Magi concealed it. Mrs. Peavy said she'd send you guys in with the key, so I've been waiting. So, like, he popped into the garden right before it got sealed. And he's been there ever since. And he's kind of worried about it because he's almost out of food and stuff. So, like, has he been in there for a week, or has he been in there for, like, 200 something years? Or no. No. 150 sort of years. Don't know where 200 came from. But, yeah. Assumed he popped in and fast forwarded 200 years. Yeah, that would make sense, being that it's a time thing. But, like, doesn't say that. So, are we just assuming that that's what he did? Because he popped back and then popped forward. So, like, pop back, waited for everything to lock, and then pop forward again? Which, if that's his ability, it would totally make sense. But now he's stuck in there. But, like, also, I don't know. It's usually 200 years in fairy tales, so obviously they're 50 years too early. I knew there was a reason I had 200 stuck in my brain. Yeah, exactly. So, no, it's fine. you just hang out in there and, chill with stuff. It's great. Yeah. So, I don't know. It also just like an interesting setup of, like, you're not allowed to talk to anybody and socialize and whatever. You have to be in your rooms after curfew at 9. But also there's this connecting door that's conveniently, like, on the separating wall between you and the person that you were talking to, who is gonna have, like, insight into how that you can tap into stuff, and has the only working amplifier that might help you see the garden. It works. It's a kid's book, but it's also one of those, like, that's convenient. So, like, oh no. And is it one of those situations that, like, because it seems like in this world, in this version of reality, people have a range of abilities. The only commonality is that everyone has the white aura. The rules are counterproductive, right? like, what? But yeah, this one we've actually got. I don't know how well it's gonna show up in here, but we've got. That's that's the breakdown of the rooms. So we've got the upper floor, the second floor that's off limits to everyone, the first floor, and the basement. So the ground floor and basement. And then over here we've got the gardens. So there's the infinity pool. Where is it? There. Yeah, the infinity pool up here, and the oak thing, the oak path here, and the butterfly effect, and the house, and the carriage, the carriage house. Yeah, carriage house over here, where the first key is supposedly buried. At which point, is Teddy gonna have to just, like, chill in the garden until the rest of them figure out, like, where he went? Because, seriously. Dude's all sunburned, and come on. Come on, man. Also, you would think that it's a garden with, a bunch of trees and stuff, and it's hot and sunny. Don't be sitting out in the sun all the time. No, we saw keys on the way to the basement. There is that. There is that. But, if we're talking a key, is it a legitimate, is it a physical key, or is it something that's used as a key, or some, hidden thing, or a lever, or whatever? Because it also depends on how much of a mystery we're doing in this sort of thing. Plans argue that the house plays a role. Exactly. Also, just thinking about it, right? Let's see. Where are the plans for? Okay. There doesn't seem to be... Okay. Interesting. There doesn't seem to be any connector things to the outside from the basement. However, the kids are all, at least vaguely terrified of being on basement duty, whatever that means. Because we don't know at this point what that means. Just that the laundry is down there. But in the basement, we've got the laundry that... Okay, where's it? We've got the laundry, the stairs going down are over here. And then it's the root cellar, the wine cellar, which... You haven't seen your kid, who's 12, in 7 years, and the first and seemingly only meal that you're gonna take with them, you've decided you want them to have a full glass of wine. What? Just putting that out there. So we've got the wine cellar, and then storage, and then over here it's the water heater, utilities, and boiler room. Teddy seems like if he saw the Magi bury a key that looks like something else, he wouldn't call it a key. Yeah, fair. Fair enough. At which point, yeah, it's probably on one of the things. So they're gonna have to try all of them. Or someone would have to use their abilities to figure out which key it is, because you can only use one key and then the thing combusts horribly or something. The stag on the cardinal rose. Yeah. Yeah, so we've got a stag on this side, and we've got a butterfly on that side. And the butterfly seems to be the symbol of the Mallory estate, because it's the pathways in the gardens, and also the door knocker. So we've got transformation and rebirth, and we've got the stag that it's usually strength, right? Are the poles in each butterfly, are those poles in each butterfly wing corner thing? Okay, one sec. Stamina, virility, grace, instincts, maturity, regeneration, and spiritual enlightenment. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it hasn't really been discussed so much, but it looks like all of the dark parts here, in the garden, it looks like all of the dark bits are water. Where is it? Yeah. So we've got the infinity pool up top here. The ones in the wings aren't named, but that seems to be water with a bridge over it. And then we've got the it's calling it the Fountain of Fates, and it seems to be the same statues but reversed on each side, with water, like a rectangle of water under them. So yeah. And at which point, the is it the left or the right? I can't remember. The right. Yeah. So it looks like we've got the stag statues here, and the circle of light is appearing right above the right one there. Yeah. What do stags symbolize? That wasn't. Maturity, instinct, regeneration, spiritual enlightenment, virility, and things. I think the light portal is actually in the middle. I don't know. Let's see. Which is the same as the butterflies. Hovering above the right-hand stag at the garden's entrance, perfectly centered within the beast's antlers, was a shimmering disk of light. White and pearlescent, it rippled at the edges like the surface of a pond being disturbed. Which I was focused on, like, ooh, where are plant things, that I just kind of forgot to mark where world building bits were too. But yeah, ran the same as the butterflies. Also, with the whole immortality thing, like, especially when it's like, okay, we heard it is perfectly centered between the two stag's antlers. Oh, okay. Yeah, no. That makes sense. That makes sense. Depending on who's trying to access it, it would be more or less accessible at that point, probably. Yeah. So with the whole immortality stuff, if it's someone trying to save someone else's life, right? Because it's a family member, friend, some variation of loved one who you're trying to save because nothing else has worked, so therefore you're out of options. That's your only possible route. And you get the thing that would make them immortal. Even if it's one of the ones that like comes with a decent healing factor and whatever else. Especially if that variation of immortality comes along with time freezing for the person, essentially. Where, you don't age past whatever age you were at that point. you have a fun situation where that person is now some variation of loved one. It's fine. You have a situation where that person is now fine, relatively, at least physically, but now probably has to go through like endless amounts of mental anguish because they can't age, they can't die, but they have to sit there and watch while everyone else around them that they've ever cared about ages and dies. So, like, is it even worth it? And then you get more with, like, the existential hypotheticals and everything else. So, like, on the one hand, in a fantasy, like, we're trying to find the Philosopher's Stone. We're trying to create the Philosopher's Stone because, like, it's an intellectual exercise, and I'm an alchemist because, haha. Oh, wait, I did the thing? Wow, that's cool. Or trying to find the Fountain of Youth, or whatever it is. But it's one thing if you're doing something yourself, you making decisions yourself, but if you don't have the agency to do that and someone else has made that decision for you, then it's another level of like, I didn't want this, and now I have to sit here and watch everyone die. Totally enjoying completely overthinking this kid's book. I mean, like, in fairness though, like, this is totally what I would have done if I was reading this as a kid too. So, so there's that. Because, like, it's introducing, like, one of the things that I really enjoy about children's literature that, like, I remember being in undergrad and stuff, and there were people who wanted to read particular things, and like, oh, that's for teens. Oh, that's just like, you need to read something that's for your own age. Oh, and at that point, it was like the Twilight fandom was a thing. So like, whatever. Read what you want to read. Come on. But there's so many kids books that have really impactful themes like that. And yeah, to be fair, kids books do need to add up solidly. Yeah. Like, have the kids book, well, any book, but if your aim is for kids, have it so that there are several plot points in there that aren't fleshed out fully right out of the gate. Make someone who's reading it do a mental leap between points. As long as it makes sense, it's not jarring unless that's the intended feeling of the story. Because there's sometimes that works. and wrap up the plot points that you shoved into the first bit at some point as the story progresses. It's really annoying though when there's like random ones at the start and there's a whole bunch of exposition in the middle, and then it's not until like the last couple of pages that stuff's wrapped up again. It's like, you had 5 things. You could have like been sprinkling in solutions to them as the thing went, and that would be fine. But we're through the first third here, and it's gotten through like the at least most of the world building and the setup, and now we're into like the action and stuff and things. Adults are much more likely to excuse sloppy writing, right? Seriously. Seriously though. Like, the number of fan fictions that I've read that are legitimately leagues better than some of the published works that I've read. Because there's no glaring plot holes in the middle of them. Like, no. How did this get published? Most of the time it's not that it was an independent thing. It was like, this someone paid you to write this. How? I don't, what? How? But anyway. But yeah, a bit ago you were asking about the plant mentions and stuff. And yeah, so far, all the botanical mentions have been pretty mundane. Like, we've got ivy that's crawling up the side of the house that seems to only be focusing on one window in the turret, which, that could be a thing. I don't know. That seems a bit weird. But yeah, we thought you were going to talk about the number of fanfics you've read that had no plot. We're like, well, this is what. Yeah, no, we'll just. We'll just leave that there, that it's a thing that exists, that, like, totally don't read sometimes. Because, like, no, if if the intent of the story is to not be plot centric, like, alright, that's fine. Story can be whatever it wants to be. But, like, if it's supposed to have a discernible plot with a progression and, like, character development and stuff, and there's, like, glaring plot holes, because, like, the character started out walking through a cemetery, and then all of a sudden they're, like, in a house. And there was, like, a paragraph break or something. But no, like, oh yeah, we finally got here, or, you know, just did they teleport? What happened? Or, like, there's a thing that a page and a half is dedicated to discussing this, like, random pocket watch that someone found in a, like, ditch somewhere, and it's never brought up again. Like, why? Were you just trying to take up time with that one. Like, I don't. Alright, one second. Thought y'all appreciate that. That wasn't even a set up thing. It was just like, what can I say that, oh, a clock, yeah. Oh. Also, just an aside thing, right? If I was gonna say, like, any thoughts on what Piper's amplifier? There we go. Like, I'm still getting used to the terminology in here, right? So, any guesses what Piper's amplifier is gonna be? And then I had a thought. Because regardless of who it is, each of the kids, and we don't know how it works for the adults. No. For the kids, you never see them without it because obviously that's that's the focus that helps them with their abilities. The locket warmed when she was looking at the Infinity Fountain. The locket is obviously a central component of the story. Like, or maybe she doesn't have one. Maybe amplifiers are a lie. I mean, there is that. Or it could be a situation that in order to, like, well, let's go on the assumption that amplifiers are a thing, but you don't have to use them. So, like, as a training tool, it would help you tap into your abilities more. But as a hindrance, it could help you tap into your abilities, but force you to always use that as a conduit. Because that's one of the again with the fan fiction. Because, back in the day, I read a lot of Potterverse. That's one of the things that was explored in a lot of those, where wandless magic is in the fanverse, shall we say, not in the canon, but in the fanverse for that world, a lot of it is like wandless magic is really rare, or once you start using a wand, it's a lot harder to do wandless magic because you're used to channeling it through an implement. if you only do wandless, then you have a hard time using the wand, that sort of thing. And that was explaining some of the issues that certain students had with navigating particular spell work and stuff. Not like being in the magic lessons could be a benefit because her mind would be unclouded. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Also, right, if they're so gung-ho about finding kids that have abilities and making them do trials in the garden, we get back to the whole, like, is her mom trying to protect her? Or is she just that much of a jerk? Or is she, like, under somebody's mind control, or what? Because the statement of, like, oh, well, class is tomorrow, right? Yes. Oh, so, like, where is it? I want to come. Like, well, do you have an affinity? Like, no. Then what's the point? Like, being which y'all know that abilities seem to be at least vaguely hereditary. And that, like, half of the bunch didn't know they had something special about them in that capacity before they got there. Wouldn't, having everyone in the class so that something might jog your brain a little bit be a good thing? I don't know. I don't know. Just as a thing. you know? Eh, just yeah, that totally went to the mind control or something theory. Yeah, like, and with as affectionate as she is with the cat, and with as much as the cat seems to be spying on everyone, it seems like either the cat is a disguised magician who's using their abilities to do things, or the cat is a conduit that someone else is using to control, or that whole dynamic is really suspicious. And then we've got what's her name? Melina Mallory. So Mrs. Mallory, Piper's grandma and the lady of the estate, has been missing since 2 days after Teddy disappeared. So, like, if the cat, hypothetical here, if the cat is usually fine and not a jerk, and if Mallory is usually fine and actually there and not being all suspicious and whatever, Could someone in theory have kidnapped the grandma and the cat and replaced them with someone who is, or someone who has the ability to shift into a cat form? I don't know. One, it's a white Persian cat. Two, it's named Wolf. Three, you need a third reason it's suspicious AF. I didn't key in until just now that it's a fluffy white cat that's, yeah, it's a sheep cat that's named Wolf. It's literally a wolf in sheep's clothing. It sheds everywhere and is generally annoying and grouchy. Yeah, so there's that. But like, so we've got that as part of the dynamic that we're working with here. But does that situation preclude Teddy disappearing? Or was the cat always real suspicious? I don't know. From the sounds of it, the cat's always been pretty suspicious or whatever. But the amount that the kids come to Mrs. Peavy's defense is a bit weird too. Because Teddy's been gone for a week. And presumably, from how stuff was described, presumably she was fine up until that point. And I realized that if there's a sudden shift in, like, personal dynamics and things, especially if it's with an authority figure or, like, a parental sort of figure, it can be really jarring. But some of the reactions that the kids have to her and what she's asking them to do seems to speak more to, like, a long-standing, or at least a prolonged, exposure to certain behavior. Again, I realize it depends entirely on the people involved and what the interactions have entailed at this point, which we don't know, just that none of them want to be on basement duty, whatever that means. For all I know, that means getting locked in the basement for an extended period of time. Because they seem relatively okay if it's a group doing laundry. They just, it's the basement and it's mucky and whatever. And damp and ugh. But, yeah. The others have had 2 to 3 years to be groomed, if you will. Yeah, like, all of that, like all the reactions to things, speak to a long period of continued exposure to certain behaviors. Julius, his name is Julius, right? Yeah. Julius has been there for 5 years. And the others have been there for 2 or 3. So, yeah, like, having it be worse now than it was before, alright, that's impossible. But, yeah, especially if they're dangling the possibility of being adopted over their heads, I can see why that would be part of the interactions and stuff. Yeah. And then you have the stories from like the local kids of like, oh, there's a witch that lives there, and if you go into the house, then you'll never leave because they take kids. Hmm. I don't know. I don't know about that one. Cause like, there's yeah, especially because from the sounds of it, the kids there never leave the estate. It's like every other day there's class, and the rest of the time they're working or trying to find some secret entrance to the garden. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, they don't even have a way to call 911 for Christ's sake. Yeah, exactly. Like, the only way to get any kind of help would be like to go on foot into town. At this point, it's hinky. Yeah, the only people allowed to have any kind of access to the internet, because it makes sense. They don't want us to tell about the garden. What? Like, and there's presumably no phone system. Yeah. So Piper was wondering, how's anyone supposed to contact them if they have questions or something? And most of that is probably going to be like email or something. So it's going to go to one of the 2 people who have access to the internet. Likely. At which point, whether or not an important message gets relayed relies entirely on whether or not the person who got it wants to relay it. And we've got Piper's dad, who's in what seems to be advanced stage cancer of some kind. And a whole lot of unknowns tied to that. So, yeah. I don't know. I don't know. You'd think the relatives would insist on regular contact with Piper. Yeah, yeah. Like, from the sounds of it, because there's no mention of her dad's family aside from her sister, or his sister. And there's no mention of the mom's family aside from the mom and the grandmother. But, like, unless there's some kind of weird mind-altering force field around the house or whatever, which is a thing sometimes in stories, I realize, or something that there's been an enchantment put on whatever it is, so if you don't have a particular ability, then you want to leave or whatever. But oh yeah, it's fine. Like you can walk yourself in, right? Like you don't need me to be there. All right. Okay. Yeah. No. I'll call you in a couple of days. Yeah. All right. No. Like I promise you, I'll call you in a couple of days. Like you don't want to at least be like, hey, adults, you got my info, right? You have a working phone and stuff, yeah? Okay. I'll call on this day. So in case you want to like do something out of the house, like I'm gonna call this day so we can have a chat. Like anything? No, not. Oy. Anyway, so yeah, um, yeah, it's a pansy, right? Right? Yeah, pansy. Okay. Okay. So, most of the yeah, okay. Alright, alright. So far we've got, um, what's it called? We've got the oak alley that is leading into this garden. So, oak is associated with longevity and strength, stability, endurance, honesty, power, justice, that sort of thing. It's one of the longest running symbols, at least in European lore. Don't know outside of that, but in the lore that I know of, that's a big part of it. Also, like wisdom and knowledge and things. So you're entering this transformation garden via a path of longevity, strength, honesty, endurance, power, all of that. And then at this point she doesn't know it's the Fountain of Fates, but there's statues with depictions of the Fates on either side of the wings. So wandering around the Fates, like exploring the Fates, I guess. The ivy would be fidelity and loyalty, commitment, that sort of thing. Affection. A lot of times because the ivy can grow pretty much anywhere, and at least once it has a good base foundation, it can climb onto pretty much anything. And once it attaches to something, it's really hard to get it off. And if you do succeed in removing the ivy, there's visible damage on whatever surface it was on. And then we've got the pansy. Oh, because the Summer King, though, right? Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Oak is the Summer King, and wisdom and knowledge and things. So yeah, in this one instance, there's yeah. Hmm? Yeah. Yeah. Which in depicting the garden as being burnt out and decrepit and everything, whoever put that enchantment in place wait. Yeah, okay. So the stags were decapitated to the point that it took until Piper was looking through the spyglass to see what they actually were. So you're removing the head, the impetus, if you will, of regeneration and maturity and instinct and things that are leading into the garden, because the stags are pointing into the garden. And that path leads directly into the oak-lined roadway, pathway, the oak-lined path. That's the strength, and yeah, you're removing the vitality, the virility, the strength of the place, and locking it away in the antlers of the stag that currently don't exist, are hidden, whatever you want to phrase it as. Excuse me. And at the end of that, neutering the phallus, neutering the phallus, if you will. Yeah, essentially, yeah. And student professor vibes. Yes, yes. That seems to be an apt description, yes. And then at the other end, there's the infinity pool, or infinity fountain, whatever it is, that from the sounds of it, especially after Teddy was saying that Mrs. Peavy knows whatever it was that he told her, if it was how to get into the garden or something else, we don't exactly know precisely what, but presumably she knows something about the infinity pool, because she came out all toughy and suspicious when Piper was looking at it in, like, present day, when it was all decrepit like, and the cat told on her. But in the garden, in the vibrant version of the garden, she's standing there ready to jump in, and to show her that it's a bad idea, like, are there even statues on the plinths in the present day version? Eh. Okay. A rectangular pool. Several inactive fountain spouts were positioned throughout the water protruding from the algae-covered surface. In the center of the pool, 3 raised pedestals each held the statue of a woman wearing sweeping robes. Their golden finishes were dull, tarnished, and flaking. So yeah, they're there, but they're heavily diminished. In order to get from the entrance to the Infinity Fountain, you have to pass through the Fate Road. It's bracketed on either side by the 3 fates. So you have to literally walk a fated road to get to the prize. But is that the prize? Alright, okay. But yeah, so in order to show Piper that jumping into the fountain's a bad idea, Teddy picks a pansy flower and throws it in. He could have picked like any number of things, but it was a pansy. And what was it? Now, the pansies tend to symbolize like loving feelings, whether it's romantic or familial, friends, whatever. But it's a symbol given to someone that you care about deeply, or like a flower that conveys the message that you care deeply about somebody. And Piper wants the elixir to help her dad, and the pansy that has been introduced to the water of dubious origin has plummeted to the bottom of the thing. You know what the dead version needs? Lots of cheap grass and burrs and ticks. Make it really unhappy to go in. Yeah, like, cause not gonna lie here, right? The dead garden in here really just sounds like a garden that's been hit with a fire and a drought in a short period of time. You know? Like it doesn't look like epically inhospitable and no one ever wants to go into it for the rest of time, huh? It's just like, I mean, it doesn't look all that great. You probably need to be, doing some more gardening because, like, looks like something hit it. In not the best of manners, you know. I don't know. initially thought Piper was going to rehab the garden. Yeah! Seriously, like, the garden seems like it's just, it needs some, like, some love and care, and then it would be fine. But, like, no, the point is to maybe subvert a potential murder plot by your mom? Like, what? Maybe the thought was if they made it too nasty, people would try to fix it. Well, yeah, but, like, it's been like that for the last, like, 150 years. You would think if they were gonna try and fix it, they would have done something by now, you know? Like, or if you're gonna have, right? If you're gonna have a dilapidated, dysfunctional looking freaking garden, at least make it intentional, you know? Like, oh, there's a witch that lives there, lean into it. Like, I don't know, have a spooky, like, harvest walk once a year or something through the spooky trees and whatever. I don't know. Like, something. But no, they're doing whatever it is that they're doing, and there's evil magi people who are trying to abduct kids because, you know, that's the only way that you can collect all the abilities. Why? You mean they want people to stay out to the point of leaving the present day garden alone, too? Yeah. Yeah. I know. I know. But, like, it's there, and yeah. And I don't want people tempted to actually garden. It's like, I don't know. Like, I can see that as a thing, but also, right, as someone who, you know, is a bit of a photography enthusiast, I can tell you that sometimes the really dilapidated kind of looking places are the ones that's like, you know, really cool to photograph because the light hits the plants and stones and things in interesting and weird ways. So, yeah, collect all the abilities makes us think of the serious ethical questions Pokemon raise, right? Seriously, it's basically Pokemon, but with kids. That's what I'm getting so far with this. But the kids in the foster home that's being run are all happy and excited, marginally at least, that they're there and aren't captured and being forced to do things, but like they don't have any access to the outside world. Their only interactions are with each other. Uh, there's no one who comes to check on them because someone orchestrated it so that there were no home checks, which that's a safety thing, y'all. What? So like, are y'all just trying to make yourselves feel better that you're not, you know, in as bad a situation as some other folks, or like it's not as bad because you were placed in there by the foster system instead of just being abducted from your house? Like, is that where we're going with this? Because, like, if that's the bar, what? If that's the bar that we're setting right now, it's like real low. Seriously. Foster system does not get good rep in literature, right? Like, I know there are some situations, right, where the foster system is seriously lacking in particular components and elements and funding and whatever else sometimes. But, like, overall, if it's represented good, if it's got, good representation and it shows the kids actually being taken care of and stuff, like, alright, yeah, no, that's great. I want to read that. Just like disability represented in literature that's like people just, living their lives. And that happens to also be a component of the character development. Like, yeah, that's great. What? So, yeah, I don't know. At this point, I don't know if I'm annoyed at the characters because of how they're written, or because of how they're interacting, because of things that we don't entirely know about and fleshed out and whatever. Because there's some interesting thingamabobbles in here and stuff. Or if it's that I've gotten used to a certain not level or depth or anything, but like a certain amount of like whatever that doesn't tend to be in kids' books as much, I suppose. Yeah. There's more like exposition. Yeah, meatiness, I guess. There's more exposition than some of the ones that I've read, but also sometimes you kind of need that. So, yeah. It's working so far, kind of. But honestly, the characterization of the foster care dynamic and no one coming to check on the kids when they're obviously, like, there's obviously something going on is bugging me. So, I don't know if it's gonna be explored in the other, like, 2/3 of it or what, but yeah, so that's where we are at the moment. Okay. So okay. Question. How much do we want to read for next week? I think so. Also, the implication that looking at the vibrancy of the garden from the angle of the house, you only see decrepit, burnt out remains. And it's only if you're looking through the doorway from the garden to the house that you see it actually, like, alive. But if you're looking from the vibrancy of the garden to the house, you see it crumbling and decomposing, and all the vibrant ivy that was growing along it is now dead. So each side of the enchantment, each side of the veil, sees the other as like a crumbling shell of its former self. Oh, yeah. Okay. We could finish for next week. And then start Prison Healer. Yeah, I found the view of the house from the garden interesting. Yeah. Let me see. Okay, yeah. So, yeah. So the oak trees, the symbols of strength and wisdom and um, ancient power and stuff, reality, are growing, and there's garden beds wrapped around the tree trunks with daffodils, roses, and marigolds blanketing the floor. So, yeah, so daffodils are rebirth and new beginnings. Rose is romance, love, beauty, and courage. And marigolds. Huh. Wait, roses don't blanket the floor, right? Like, I don't know. Yeah, yeah, uh-huh. They're shrubbery. Exactly. So marigolds are associated with the sun, positive energy, and symbolize spiritual power of resurrection. Uh, they're also called the flowers of grief. Have come to symbolize a feeling of despaired love. If someone has lost someone they love, whether it be taken by death or broken relationship. Um, and at least in Dia de los Muertos, when spirits of the dead are returning to visit the living during the celebrations, marigolds are used to guide the spirits to the altars. Yeah, and they repel certain insects too. And attract ladybugs. Mm. Yeah, they protect plants from aphids and other harmful pests and attract ladybugs, parasitic wasps, hoverflies, and other beneficial insects. That would be why they're a pest thing, because they attract beneficial insects. Yeah, there we go. Yeah. And it's apparently also associated with positive emotions and energy. Uh, Well, at that point, they eat the aphids and other bugs that are trying to eat your plants, so therefore they're beneficial. Yeah. Because from what I remember, parasitic wasps lay their eggs in the bodies of certain insects that tend to be considered pests, so therefore they're taking out the pest bugs, essentially. Yeah. So, I don't know. But yeah, so either we can do 2/3 for next week, or we can split it at, like, I don't know, chapter 19 or 20 and do a 3-week thing. I don't know. Ow, ow. Finish it! Yeah, no, that works. That works. Sounds like a plan. So yeah, we'll see. We'll see next week what we've got for that in the conclusion of The Girl and the Witch's Garden. Ow. But yeah, so ow. So with that, any other observations or what's its and stuff for, come on, for right now, or nah? Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. That was a good discussion though. It's very good discuss. We observe that it is bedtime. Ah, yes, yes, yes. Indeed, it is time for the sleeps and the foods. Not in that order. The foods and then the sleeps. Yes. Uh, so I will let y'all go. Have a fabulous rest of your night. Come on. Get ready. Hugs. Hugs for everybody. Yes, foods and foods and sleeps is best earner. Foods and sleeps is much more better than doing the sleeps before the foods. All right. Have a fabulous rest of your night. I will see y'all next time. Have a good one. Thursday we're doing whatever we happen to be doing. And then next Monday we're gonna be finishing up the rest of this right here. So yeah. Have a good one. I will see you later. Bye everybody. I'm waving up here where like obviously the camera can't see. So yeah, there we go. Bye. Pikachu says bye too. See y'all later, friends.